Hey guys, I'm Azra, and in this Lord of the Rings Rise to War video I'm going to show you a guide about Falgin. And right off the bat I have to give a big shout out to the player Thorek, who is a respect level 18 main Falgin player. He gave me lots of insights how this commander works, so thanks to you, and also to Shilky, who reviewed what we have collected so far. So what I'm about to show to you is the result of those two players' knowledge combined. Now let's get going. So Falgin is a leader commander, and that typing fits him quite well. He is boosting his units, so I have nothing to complain about the typing. And then let's have a look into his attributes. His main attribute is might. That's what you want to push as high as possible, because he has a few skills that also scale with might and fit his build. Might is your number one stat. He has a bit of focus, but that's not really that important, and he has just enough speed to outspeed any important unit whenever you are fighting. But long story short, you just want to push his might stat and you're good to go. And now let me show you how you can build your Falgin in two different ways, because he has a melee build and a ranged build, and both are viable. It really depends on who you are fighting against. Like when you're fighting against Gundabad, I wouldn't recommend his ranged build because of his warlords. That wouldn't work. Let's first start with his melee build. As you see, this player is at respect level 18. He is Thorek. You will see all of his battle reports later when we analyze the fights. This is what we consider best in slot gear, and also the build that makes the most sense for Falgin. He is a troop boosting commander, and the skills to the top, like his Khaldoon Expedition Respect 0 title, is doing exactly that, giving more survivability to your units, and also firing formation, this skill to the right. You definitely want to focus on those two skills. And also Rhine's Guards, it's doing the same but a bit different. But what I like about this is it has this scaling option. The more might you have, the more damage increase your dwarven units get. And then you also have this, I think it was called defensive stance. It is like activating every 3 rounds. It's selecting one enemy target, it deals damage against that target, and then it selects one of your units and it boosts the next damage that melee unit receives by a certain percentage, and that too scales with might. This is why I'm saying focus on your might stat, push it as high as possible to get more benefit from those two skills. And also make sure to spend 1 point into the cleanse, because cleanse is always nice to have. There is a lot of things that can be cleansed. And then when you have enough points, you should also put them into his respect 3 tree, like max out whirlwind and also all in. Make sure to get like Khaldoon Expedition and Rhine's Guard maxed out. Also focus on his Duran's Blood tree. The last skill I would aim to max out would be his defensive stand over here. Like, it's okay to put 1 point into it just to have the scaling effect work in your favor, but that isn't really your priority. Your priority is R5, top R0 and R3. In the end, you will have a commander who is boosting the survivability of his troops and also the damage of them, while dealing some damage by himself. Having a look at his gear, like, it's pretty straightforward. If it comes to his melee build, Cutlass with melee might is your number 1 choice. In regards to purple gear, the secondary choice could be the Warhammer with Dwarven Strength, and then you have the Superior Hauberk with either fire protection or melee vigor as your best in slot chest piece. Helmet wise, you have 2 choices: the Brutal Helmet with melee vigor or Bone Mask with manipulate. And when it comes to his accessories, he has quite a few options. The Drums of Moria with Haste of Soldiers is pretty nice, giving the plus attack for your melee units. Or how about a Hiflane with Bane of Orcs? This is exceptionally good when you want to counter orc units. Imagine if you're fighting against Gundabad, that is even more the reason to equip this, to counter the warlords and also reapers. Reapers are in the meta, you will always encounter them, but with Hiflane and Bane of Orcs, you will deal more damage. And as a last accessory choice, I would go with the Smoking Pipe and Sustain if you don't have the aforementioned accessories. Golden gear wise, you have 2 weapon choices. I think the best one is like the Matic with Might of Dwarves, it is a bit better than the gigantic hammer with Rend, but pick whatever you have, both are nice. Then, as his golden armor piece, you have Durin's Plate with tactical maneuvers, that for sure is very nice, but whenever you are up against a commander that is dealing elemental damage, like the Witch King, go back to your Hauberk with fire protection, or let's say you are fighting someone with heavy focus damage, like King of the Undead with Oathbreakers, or Gandalf the White with his Respect 10 item, then go back to your Quilted Armor with focus protection. Anyway, let's continue with his helmet. You have the Casque of the Submerged Isle with Aegis. Your main damage source is coming from your units. Your units cannot deal damage when they are stun-locked or inflicted with madness. You have a 3-unit army composition which is very weak against madness, so Aegis it is. And last but not least, as your best in slot accessory, you definitely need Erebos Pride with Arid Ruin Formation. The combination of the high might stat, the high plus HP of that accessory is just priceless. On top of it, the special effect, it fits the build of Falgin just perfectly. It is boosting the damage of your units by quite a lot, and it also outperforms his Respect 10 item. So our advice to you guys, go with this accessory if you have it. Let's move over to his ranged build. You see, like, the skills stay the same, nothing has changed, but in regards to gear, just a tiny bit is changing. For example, his weapon, his purple weapon, you now have only one choice. You need to have the Warhammer with Dwarven Strength. The armor piece stays the same, but the helmet, you now have only the Bone Mask with Manipulate as the only best in slot option. When it comes to his accessories, you now have access to the Wizard's Fireworks with Pursuit, which is kinda nice, because now you can counter Grimars with this, or let's say Gil-galads. You no longer need to fear Evade. If you don't have this, go with the other two options. Golden gear wise, a lot of the items stay the same, only two things have changed, being his helmet. You now want the Hunter's Guide with Aegis, because this has +3 attack and you are going to need the bonus damage for your Master Throwers. Accessory wise, you still want to have the Erebos Pride with Arid Ruin Formation. If you don't have it, you can still make do with his Respect 10 item. That is the second best option for Falgin. And now it is time to move over to the troop composition. Let's start with the troop composition for his melee build. It is pretty straightforward. You want to have 3k Guardians, 1k Ram Riders, followed by 1500 Iron Warriors. If you don't have Iron Warriors, you can also include, let's say, Depth Defenders instead. This ranged army composition looks a bit similar, but in this case you want to have still the same numbers of Guardians. Alright, nothing has changed there, but instead of 1k Ram Riders, you now have around 750, followed by a big number of Master Throwers. In this case, like we are level 50, 3500 Master Throwers. And that's it. With these two troop compositions, you are good to go. And I like the fact that you have two troop compositions which are countering different situations and factions. Imagine if you are fighting against Gundabad. In that case, you definitely don't want to run this ranged melee hybrid composition. You would get destroyed by warlords. But in that case, you have the luxury of going back to your full melee build. I like this army versatility a lot. And now it is time to compare some battle reports. I will be going back and forth between the melee and ranged build against the same commanders, just to see how they are doing. Let's start with his melee build. So, Falgin, what gear do we have? We have Matic of the Ironheads with Might of Dwarves, Durin's Plate with Tactical Maneuvers, Brutal Helmet with Melee Vigor, and the Respect 10 item. Alright, let's check out Khaldoon. Oh my god. It's a gigantic hammer with frenzy. Like, look at the gear, everything is gold. Warborn Battleplate, Fortitude of Soldiers, Cask of Pride with Fortitude of Soldiers as well, and Drums of Barad-dûr with Iron Guard. So this is a pretty competitive Khaldoon player, one of the strongest. All of his skills make sense, I have nothing to complain about that, and the troop composition makes sense as well. Now look at this, guys. This is a big achievement, not getting killed by a big difference against a frenzy Khaldoon. This is how great Falgin is. He isn't getting decimated to the ground. Let's check out the snapshot page. We have done around 130k damage versus around 280k damage. It is what it is. Frenzy Khaldoon is the strongest commander in the game with Frenzy Dwallin. And then, in the detailed view, the Guardians have done almost 50k damage compared to the Iron Warriors, who only did almost 40k damage. It is unfortunate that we are up against the strongest commander in the game, but I think it is a win for Falgin that he didn't get decimated to the ground. Not many commanders can withstand the power of Frenzy Khaldoon, but here we have Falgin still standing tall. Unfortunately, we couldn't find the same player to test the range build, and he, instead of Reapers, has the Oathbreakers. Let's check out Falgin's ranged gear. As you see, we now have the Hunter's Guide with Aegis, and Khaldoon has these items over here: Gigantic Hammer with Frenzy again, Mithril Coat with Barrier, Bone Mask with Manipulate, and Drums of Moria, Bane of Dwarf. This build is also very scary, and in this case Falgin has done more damage than compared to his melee build. The main reason for that is because of the Master Throwers. They are very good in countering melee units. Ranged unit, very effective against melee and large enemies. This is the reason why. In an ideal scenario, you want to boost the damage of these ranged units with an accessory that is allowing them to always deal maximum amount of damage. The special effect Opportune Strike is just perfect for Master Throwers because that allows them to always deal the max amount of damage. But that is just a side note, I just wanted to point it out. Master Throwers benefit by that special effect a lot. Let's continue with the snapshot page. We have done around 200k damage versus 270k-ish damage, and in the detailed view we see that Master Throwers have almost done 80k damage and Guardians 50k damage. Like, don't underestimate the damage of Guardians, they may be tanky units, but this is also a fair amount of damage. And let's also not forget that Falgin 2 is contributing with a fair amount of damage to the overall damage. Here is your damage, here is some damage, and also here. The next comparison is going to be with a Witch King. We are back in his melee build. Falgin has these items once more: the Brutal Helmet with melee, Vigor. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the fire protection, which is going to cost him a lot. This is just how strong the Witch King is whenever you aren't ready for the fire damage. There is always a counter to everything. The Witch King himself has these items: Cutlass Melee Might, Quilted Armor, Focus Protection, Horseman's Helm, Warding, Drums of Moria, Bane of Dwarves. That is quite crazy against our Dwarven army. In the snapshot page, we have done around 220k damage versus 390k-ish damage. That is a lot of damage coming from the Alchemist. Falgin has done almost 110k damage, his Guardians 20k, and Iron Warriors almost 80k damage. Now let's also see how much damage the Alchemists have done. Yeah, it's just a strong fire damage. The Alchemists have done the job. 320k-ish damage. Let's compare the melee build with the ranged build. Here we have him with ranged unit. Gear-wise, we are back with Hunter's Guide and Aegis, and the Witch King has these items over here: Reckoning, Might of Soldiers, Max Refined. Like, wow, this is one of the scariest Witch Kings I have seen. Warborn Battleplate, Resilience of Soldiers, his Respect 10 item, 2 times refined, and he has enough might to get this special effect activated. Might reaches 300, allied units first damage dealt plus 50%. That means his units are going to convener even harder. That is very scary. And he also has like enough focus to get this special effect activated as well. Each round allied units 50% chance of causing maximum damage. Look at this, like the Alchemists are going to benefit from this helmet a lot, but we will see that in a moment. Also, high respect level of Witch King. So many trees being maxed out. Let's go into the snapshot page and see we have done almost 220k damage versus around 370k damage. That is a lot. In the detailed view, Falgin has done 80k damage, his Master Throwers almost 120k damage. And yeah, these are his main damage sources. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. We needed the Hauberk with fire protection to get the job done. But out of curiosity, let's see how much damage they have done. Yeah, Alchemist 230k-ish damage, followed by Berserkers with 100k damage. Let's finish the video by comparing two fights against Sunind. We are going to go back to the melee build once more. So Falgin, he has the brutal helmet once more with melee vigor, and we are fighting against this Sunind. She has gigantic hammer with frenzy, massive breastplate with significant protection, hunter's guide, aegis, and palantir of warfang with tactical mark. This is truly best in slot Sunind. Like, I can't complain. Like, there's nothing you can complain. She even has a frenzy hammer, and with this she is going to proc a feint effect more frequently. Like, this is truly best in slot Sunind. Everything is perfected to 100%. The scariest Sunind I have seen. How does dwarf kind withstand so much hatred? Like, Falgin being one of the best commanders, he kinda is capable of surviving that burst damage. Let's check out the snapshot page. So we have done around 200k damage versus 350k-ish damage. It is what it is, guys. Like, Sunind is one of the strongest commanders in the game, and the gear you have seen is just out of this world. This Suni is no joke. In the detailed view, we have done like Falgin, almost 90k damage, Guardians, 80k damage, and that is as far as we go. Everything else was nuked to the ground. Out of curiosity, I would like to see the damage of Azra. So they have done almost 300k damage. Alright. In the second fight, we are back in the ranged build. Falgin has his hunter's guide with aegis once more. And let's see. This Sunind has the gigantic hammer with frenzy, ranger shroud with resilience of archers, hunter's guide with aegis, and wizard's fireworks with hunter's mark. It isn't like the Sunind from before, but still it is a strong Sunind. And we got wiped out. So the ranged build isn't performing as good against Suni as his melee build does. Let's check out the snapshot page. We have done around 200k damage and received around 370k-ish damage. In the detailed view, Falgin almost 100k damage, Master Throwers around 70k damage, and Guardians around 40k damage. But yeah, guys, this is as far as you can go against Sunind. She is one of the hardcore counters against Falgin. But it's okay, there is always a counter against any commander. But long story short, let's round this video up. What I like about Falgin is that he has a fitting typing, like the leader typing fits his build. He is boosting his units while also dealing some damage by himself. There is a lot of gear that just perfectly makes sense with both of his builds, be it his melee or ranged build. That too is also a good point he has. He has army versatility. It is totally worth to invest into Falgin if you are wondering into which T2 commander to commit. Falgin is a good choice. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like, consider subscribing, and don't underestimate sharing this video. Go ahead, all of those 3 points help me push against YouTube's algorithm. And that being said, I see you guys next time.